Alright, so here we go. I don't know if you've ever seen in the mall when there's like a new car displayed. Remember those that they raffle off or whatever? I haven't been in the mall in ages, so I don't know if that's still a thing. But they will have a sticker on the window like this. This is the one that pertains to us in Canada. Our fuel economy is stated as liters. So this car would be using 9 liters for every 100 kilometers you drive. Okay, on average. What do you mean on average? Even smaller. It's hard to see, but if you look carefully, let me try to focus that. It says city, and then it says highway, and that's always true. Driving in the city is going to use a lot more fuel than driving on a highway. Okay, the main reason is that your car uses most of the fuel when it's going from a stop to the speed you want to get to, right? That's when most of the fuel is consumed. When you're on a highway just coasting, your engine is not working as hard anymore. It just gets to that speed and just maintains it. And so city driving is always more fuel, uses more fuel. And you have to know that this is done like in a very like how should in a lab almost like they're gonna have like a little rink or something outside or like a setup where they tested what city driving is like. But in reality, you probably use more than what they say you're using. So the average between these two is what they post big on their window, right? This car only uses 9 liters per 100 kilometers. But really, it uses probably more than that in reality because most of us drive in the city, right? Most of us. So you probably be more like 10 or 11 liters per 100 kilometers if you're in the city, right? So let's zoom back out. Now you know that it's actually a thing, right? And here we go. So just so you know, when you compute this, when you take the liters you have used and the kilometers you've driven, when you divide that and times it by 100, your answer will be in liters per 100 kilometers. The fuel economy is also sometimes known as fuel consumption. And I will state some very obvious facts here, but it's very important for you to understand the number of liters of gasoline a vehicle requires to travel 100 kilometers, right? So liters of gasoline to travel 100 kilometers, that's essentially what the fuel economy is. Okay? Very obvious too, but maybe not so much at first. A higher fuel economy, so a bigger number, will be a higher cost of driving. The bigger the fuel economy, the more, right? You know the gas prices now, right? It's pretty crazy. Some of you gas up, some of you have cars. This is the age where you start having your own car. So the higher the fuel economy, the more you're going to pay, obviously, because you're burning more fuel for that car. A smaller fuel economy will be a lower cost of driving. Okay. So in this case, so let's say there's a fuel economy of 7.4 liters per 100 kilometers. So this would be considered our fuel economy of this vehicle. And it basically says, when you read that it takes 7.4 liters to travel 100 kilometers. So if you travel 200 kilometers, right, it would be double that. So you would have been using, help me out here, 14.8 liters, right? Almost 15 liters to travel twice that distance. So, but this is the standard way of stating the fuel economy. The fuel economy of your vehicle will vary depending on when you drive. Do you drive rush hour? Do you drive midnight? Different story, right? You can probably go down Portage on the green lights and just keep going, right? And so when you drive makes a big difference. How you drive, right? If you're younger, you drive like we call it a jackrabbit, meaning Like I'm here next to, let's say there's an 18-year-old next to me, and we're on the red light. Green comes, they go, right? They floor it. And then the next red light, we're right next to each other again, right? So I don't do that anymore because I know that gas is expensive. So I just slowly get, the slower you go, the less fuel you use, okay? The types of optional equipment installed, that one is very, if you have like a Jeep Wrangler and you like put like custom bumpers on it and you start adding weight to it, it actually will use more gas, quite a bit of gas, okay? The weight, like if you carpool a lot, you have like 4 people every day, as opposed to you just driving, you will notice it burning more fuel because it's more work for the engine to actually move that vehicle. The condition of the engine. So if you're never changing the oil, you're never changing the air filter, it's gonna start affecting your fuel economy. Sometimes by quite a bit, sometimes not so much, but it's always a good idea to keep your vehicle in top shape. Manufacturers voluntarily place fuel economy labels on new vehicles. The label will tell you the city and the highway fuel economy of that particular model. The city economy of a vehicle is different than the highway. So that's, I think you've already gotten that point, but city fuel economy is different than highway, right? And it has to do with the amount of work the engine has to perform, right, to get moving. In the States, they use miles per gallon. I'm not going to touch on that. If you're ever interested, you just type in on Google fuel economy from this to miles per gallon, and it will tell you right away. They always do everything backwards, right? So let's keep going now. Let's do some math. Okay, if you pay very close attention to this first example, I think you will pretty much get fuel economy, all right? Um, it's not that hard, but you need to make sure you pay attention, okay? Highlighter in hand. Here you go. A car is driven 280 kilometers, right? So that's the distance you traveled. And for that distance, this car used 26.78 liters of gas. How would you know that? When you go fuel up your car, right? That's what I do. I zero my odometer, right? The trip, I zero it and I fill my tank up, right? And so when you drive, right, you drive around the city or everywhere and then you want to gas up again, you look at the gas pump, how much it took to fill it up again, right? So you know how far you've driven and how much gas you used to drive that distance. That's what I do every time on my car. And you kind of keep track of it. So here we go. Determine the fuel economy of the car. So let's say this is your car. You just drove this distance, I don't know, 2, 3 weeks, and you need to gas up. Determine the fuel economy of the car. So we go A. We know that the fuel economy is liters used divided by distance and kilometers, right? And that gets multiplied by 100. That is the formula for fuel economy. So it's in the formula sheet. You could have it on your study sheet, but that's what they're asking you to do, to essentially calculate it. So we're going to do that right next to it. In this case, it's very easy. It's just 26.78 liters divided by 280.2 kilometers. We multiply that by 100. And you grab your calculator. 26.78 divided by 280.2. I always hit equal at that point. I'm just so used to it. Times 100. And so you write it down to 2 decimals. That'd be 9.5 what? The 7 bumps that second 5 to a 6. Right? And then you just write liters per 100 kilometers. Just add that to your answer and you're good to go. So this car uses approximately 10 liters per 100 kilometers. It's not bad, but it's not great, right? Some of the little cars, right, Toyota Corolla and stuff, think they could do better than that. But anyways, B. That is gold, by the way. If you are given the fuel economy or you just found it, I actually would say that is worth highlighting or worth like that is going to probably be used to answer something else. Listen carefully. This will be used to answer something else. Okay, most likely if there's a B, you can be guaranteed with that. Okay, how much fuel would you need to drive 1,500 kilometers? Well, you start with the fact that this car, we just calculated it, uses this much fuel to travel 100 kilometers. It's in the answer. And on the other side, you fill in part of the information given. So in this case, they're asking you for 1,500 kilometers, right? So that is the number that goes in here, right? You want to make sure kilometers line up. And we're going to figure out X number of liters required to make that trip. That's probably, I'm thinking Calgary, from Winnipeg to Calgary, I think that distance more or less. I might be off by a little bit. But if you wanted to figure out how much am I going to have to pay for gas, this is how you do it. So remember, you go to the side where the variable is, you start with a number and then you cross multiply and you divide. That's how it goes. You cross multiply and you divide. So setup is key and then cross multiply and divide. So we go 1,500 times 9.56 divided by 100. And that is going to give us the number of liters we need to figure that out, to make that trip. So 143.4. In this case, you don't even need to round. And because it's not a dollar amount, right, it's just liters, we can just leave it like that. This is the answer to B. So what are the gas prices right now? 1.499, right? So this many liters times 1.499, it would cost you about 215 bucks one way. So there and back 450, right? Sorry, 430-ish. Did you know that the gas prices already include taxes, right? When you see the 1.499, that is already including taxes. So that's how fuel is in this province. It's like that's what you pay, right? All right. C. By the way, if you don't know what your fuel economy is supposed to be, you have an older vehicle, just look it up online. Like 1999 Chevy Cavalier. That's what I used to have. Okay. You look it up and it will tell you on average how much it's consuming, and then you can kind of calculate how much would it cost you to travel anywhere you want, right? So C, watch what it's saying here. So B is done, okay? Now we're going to see what distance could you travel on a full tank with 70 liters. So you're like, wait a minute, okay, how would I do that? Well, go back to the fuel economy. You start with the fuel economy, right? This is a fact. And then on the other side, one of them will be given to you. In this case, it's liters, 70 liters. So you line up the liters with the liters. And in this case, you're going to figure out how many kilometers you can drive on that full tank. So the variable is on the right side. You start with a number, cross multiply this way, divide that way. So set it up. Please don't add an equal sign to this thing. Don't add like a second equal sign and put the answer next to it. That is wrong. Okay. You need to go and show one more step. So 70 times 100 divided by 9.56. There you can add a second equal sign if you want. So that is 7,000 divided by 9.56. So on that tank, and here we need to round to 2 decimals, right? You could drive this many kilometers on that tank. And let me see if my highlighter does one more stint here before dying on me. So I just want to highlight that, right? You both times did you start with the fuel economy, right? For both of these questions, you need to start with something that is true about that car, and I could throw any distance at you or any, right? Like how far could you drive if you had like 20 liters, right? If you fill up 20 liters, how much could you drive, right? Cross multiply and divide, boom, right? But it always starts with the fuel economy. I'm saying that because a lot of students, they leave this blank. Like I asked this question here, they don't know where to go. It's like, well, just set it up and then fill in whatever you're going to be given one of these, right? Fill it in, cross multiply and divide, and away you go. Okay. Let's read question 2 there and try, just answer A for now. Just answer A. You don't need to answer B just yet. Read that question. See if you could figure out how to answer A, and I'll. All right, ready? So they want the fuel economy, so it's not given, okay? You need to calculate Julia's fuel economy. So you need to use that formula. And so for A, the fuel economy is liters, right? Maybe I'll do this, liters over distance times 100. That is the formula that you need to follow. So I'm gonna do this way, okay? Sorry, fuel economy like this. It's gonna maybe be a little bit confusing, but you used 48 liters, 45, sorry, 45 liters. And your odometer, right? This is what it was at the start, and this is what it was at the end, right? So we need to subtract those two values. Watch how I'm going to do it. You don't need to do it like this. You can do it on the side, but I'm going to show how I subtract the readings of my odometer on the car to know how far I've driven. Okay, so it ends up being like this. So I'm going to continue down here. Fuel economy is 45 liters divided by, let's figure out what that is, 21,190.3 minus 20,844.5. So you drove 345.8 kilometers. That's the only added layer that I had in here that might have made it a bit more challenging. Okay, times 100. So you can actually write next to it like that, 45 divided by 345.8 times 100. And that car has a fuel economy of 13.01 liters per 100 kilometers. That answers A. And if there's a B part, you can be guaranteed that the fuel economy will be needed. Well, Not guaranteed, actually, but very likely. The cost of fuel will simply be 45 liters because we know how many liters she needs times 1.209. That is it. Don't add taxes, okay? Fuel economy, no taxes because the taxes are already at the pump. The price you see displayed, that's what you pay. So this is 54.41 that you would pay there. That has a dollar amount. Fuel economy, remember, no dollar sign there. Okay. Three is gonna be, 3 is a 3-mark question, guys. This one is a 3-mark question, and I'll show you what's involved. It says a 2018 Toyota Tundra has a fuel economy of 12.3 liters per 100 kilometers. That's gold right there. Fuel economy is given to you. Okay? Meaning you're not going to have to calculate that. Fuel economy is given. If you make a 375 kilometer trip, right? If this is the distance you travel, calculate the cost of fuel if fuel is that much per liter. Okay. Okay, so what we need to do is find liters used for that trip. Okay, that's what you need to do first and foremost. That's step number 1. So we're going to say 12.3 liters for 100 kilometers. Where did I get that from? That's my fuel economy right here. And they give you the distance of the trip. So you need X number of liters, which we're going to figure out in a moment here to make that trip. Because once you have the liters, you just multiply it by the price and then you're good to go. Can I just say something? That right there, you would get 1 out of 3 right now, just because you set it up like that. The second mark, here we go. You got to cross multiply and divide. 375 times 12.3 divided by 100. Yeah, I feel the same. 46.125. And I will not round that. I'll just leave the whole thing because that's not the final answer, but that would be another mark right there. And now the cost is the 46.125. This is the third mark, right? Liters times $1.209 per liter. So I actually leave that on my calculator and I say that it will cost me $55.77. Never add taxes, please. Don't add taxes to a fuel economy question. Pause there. That's it for fuel economy. Take out your ACs.